Oh, geez, folks. It's showtime.
This week on the Squatchers Lounge podcast, Dave and the Reverend Jeff take on that toy of toys, the one we all want. You know what I'm talking about. Forward-looking infrared. FLIR. A mere mention of this word sends chills down the spines of Sasquatch across the nation. But what is it? How does it work? And how can it help you? But first, it's my extreme pleasure to introduce the host of this show, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
Well, would you look at that, folks, already? It is showtime. The Squatcher Sounds Podcast, Season 3, Episode number 7. Something going on with my headline here, but we'll get that figured out in just a minute. As always, the greatest announcer man in Squatcher Sounds Podcast history, Dr. David Batdorf, Pseudoscientist. How you doing, buddy?
Fantastically. Something going on with my lower third as well, but we're good to go. Happy to talk about this subject because it's something. It's on my Christmas list every year, but I don't get it.
Yeah, actually, this particular Christmas, I actually did get one, so we'll actually get to talk about that in just a little bit. First up, as usual, we do have the squatchiest news around, so let's get on to it. Today, everybody's been talking about this headline: if humans evolved from apes, why do apes still exist? And then they began to discuss it over and over and over. I saw it in several groups going on. They're all discussing it, none of them actually reading the article, mind you. It was a clickbait, of course. And when you open the article, it's a typical, species evolution type article as you read through it. Humans simply did not evolve from apes. We evolved with apes. But it had a twist to it. David, what were your thoughts on this one?
Well, so this is one of those articles that they tried to explain everything in the lay people's terms so much that it creates confusion. To say that humans evolved with apes or separately from apes, or to say that humans are not apes is incorrect. If you look at the graph that's right here in the middle, humans are humans, which is not a chimpanzee, and it's not a gorilla, and it's not an orangutan, and it's not a gibbon, but all of those things plus humans are apes. So if there are no apes, there are no humans.
Anthropoids, I guess, is where they're making the determination in this particular graph.
Anthropoids even includes monkeys and whatnot. So apes are the gibbons, orangutan, gorilla, chimpanzee, and humans.
What I like to remind people too.
What's that?
What I like to remind people of as well is what you see as the chimpanzee today was not the chimpanzee in Neanderthal times.
Well,
or
it probably was.
Back.
Yeah, it probably was. But the chimpanzee didn't
has its
exist.
Own
Yeah, when we were the same thing, the chimpanzee didn't exist.
Correct.
We were Sahelanthropus, which is, use that as the target species because it's the right place and the right time and everything. And there's no way to get genetics out of a 6 million year old fossil. But so that looks like our, so there were no humans and there were no apes. And there were no chimpanzees, but we were all apes. So the way that it's written, he tries to clarify that, but he doesn't do it in a way that you can really go, you can really take home. So yes, we are primates. We are not, we're not monkeys per se, but at one point, we're as much a monkey as we are a lemur and anything else. Those prosimians and everything. We're all primates.
Don't forget 22% banana.
And we are apes, and 22% banana. And we're also, so some odd bacterium and other things like that. But the thing that gets me about articles like this is that they're meant to infuriate people by stating the obvious so vaguely that you can argue against it.
Exactly. So don't get so bent out of shape about crappy articles, people. RelativelyInteresting.com? Really? Okay. Point us. Moving on.
Yeah, well, the one the quote that they did use in there that I do like is that, if if Americans came from Europe, why are there still Europeans?
Right.
It's the same question.
Exactly.
So yeah, yes, there are still Europeans and Americans, and there are still chimpanzees and humans separately after the point of divergence. But saying that they're all humans, well, that doesn't make sense because they're all humans. No, it's the same question posed differently.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Yeah, right. Well, next up came across the news feed this week, and the Neanderthals are everywhere.
It is the Neanderthal Week. Is this like a new
apparently.
Animal Planet? It's like screw Shark Week. We're going Neanderthal Week.
Yeah, this one's the New Yorker. Came out on February 12th. They're talking about the Neanderthals probably suffered from a lot of the same physical and mental illnesses that the Homo sapiens sapiens are suffering from, including like gastroenteritis, like Crohn's disease. Like, that's wow. That's a thought. Now, I mean, how far back do some of these conditions go?
Well, they go back a long time. We would have to. So here's the thing that's going to blow your mind is there's some of those diseases that you don't see in early sub-Saharan African DNA, and some of these diseases we picked up from them, but part of the immune system that allowed us to live in the area of the northern hemisphere that the Neanderthals lived was picking up parts of their DNA through interbreeding, picking up those packets of the immune system like that. So we do share a lot of those immunodeficiencies and everything like that. But yeah, the way this article is written is really interesting, and it just again like it just draws them into more like taking them away. Like we always say, chimpanzees are our closest cousins. Well, Neanderthal is looking more like a brother or sister.
Right, exactly. I mean, even closer to the food chain from what we are than what chimpanzee is. And that's what we've been actually searching for. That's that missing link that we all know doesn't really exist now that we understand spiderweb evolution, as I call it, or, the evolution bush versus the tree of life, as everybody was taught back in the day. But, that missing link is always those brother, sister, the first cousin DNA parts that make up what we are is what we've been searching for so long, and it's neat that this stuff's coming out now.
Yeah, well, and you think about it, like we were never Neanderthal. We were something else, call it whatever you want to call it. It could be Homo heidelbergensis or whatever you want to call it, the parent species of the two of us. We were never Neanderthals. Like I want to impress this upon people because for a long time people thought that was an archaic human along our line. No, it's a separate. It's like our sister species. It broke off from us, went north, and as we were doing our thing down in Africa, they were doing their thing up in Europe. Speciated, we're different people, and then we met back up at some point, and that's huge, and we have parts of their DNA, which I think
picture of spiderweb evolution, as I call it, between absorption of the different spared species. I mean, it's what we'd like to see. Being right every once in a while is kind of nice.
Well, sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, but we're only pseudoscientists, remember that. Next up, oh my God, this came across my desk today, and I just about crapped myself. Dude, Bigfoot hunting with Bobo from Animal Planet. Trip of a lifetime. Hunt down Bigfoot with Bobo from Animals Planet. Finding Bigfoot. 2-day, 2-night camping trip into Northern California's beautiful Humboldt County forest. Teaming with Bobo himself, experience campfire food, squatching calls, and Bigfoot testimonies of true backwood Bigfoot hunters. A trip for a group of up to 8 people. Date to be decided in accordance with Bobo's filming schedule, of course, and that of the bidder themselves. Camping gear, transportation, gas, food, and other incidentals are not included in this trip. Trip comes with basket items to include help while you're on your quest. Mountain, a couple of shirts, some sunglasses, 2 water bottles, a lantern, and some binoculars. And the best offer, quoted price, is $10,000. You can email the Warriors on a Mission at gmail.com with any questions or offers. Dude, epic squatching with Bobo. And I saw it posted on on Facebook that Tom Yamarone is actually going to be like the camp host for those 2 days and 2 nights.
Nice.
I bet you I know where they're going to. I'm not going to say it because, well, that would just be wrong. But yeah, I pretty much know exactly where they're going to be camping to. And up to 8 people, you split that down. What is that? $2,100 a person? $2,150 a person to go for an epic of a lifetime squatching event with Bobo himself. What are your thoughts on it, buddy?
I'm just thinking that's not the kind of capital I can come up with for squatching with Bobo, but there's somebody out there that's going to do it, and that's, let's do it.
Maybe,
I guess.
Maybe a corporation, I know a cabinet guy out there that might want to pony up for the cash. No, we're just kidding. We can get him in to see Bobo for a lot less than the price of $10,000. Bobo's a good friend of the podcast, and actually I've spent a little time with the dude myself. So, there it is, people, fundraiser.com. And you can find out all about the squatching trip with Bobo. I think that was pretty cool myself. Next up, Valley of the Sasquatch. John Portanova. He and I are becoming pretty good friends. He's the director of the Valley of the Sasquatch, and it is going to be featured on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in North Carolina at the Nevermore Film Festival Presents. And I know there's a couple of happy squatchers out there from the Squatchers Lounge podcast that are going to be going to the show to see him Friday night. So I hope they actually get a chance to meet John and say hi and tell him that he's a member of the lounge as well. We're waiting for the DVD details to come out on this one, and John has promised us one of our new interview series coming up here this spring for an interview with him. So Valley of the Sasquatch, if you're in North Carolina and you can get to the Nevermore Film Festival, you might want to go check it out this weekend.
Kicking off the interview series with Valley of the Sasquatch. It's going to be fun.
Exactly. The next up, dude, we're almost funded again. Look at that. We're up to $450 of the $569 goal for the Bluff Creek Trail Camera Project Winter 2015 camera changeover. Yep, we just need a few more people to kick in a few more bucks. We got 25 days. We'd like to get it funded as early as we can, but they'll be going up to change those cameras out here early March as soon as the snow gets out of there enough for them to get in there to them once again. So we'll be getting those fabulous wildlife videos. Dude, I love it when they go up and collect the cards. We get all those great wildlife shots. We got the very rare ringtail, the last ones.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. I mean, and they made local news, and I'm sure there are some wildlife experts that are very interested in the photographs as well. So it's a good project. Of all the things that you could fund, I feel like this is a pretty reasonable way to put your money towards some really hardworking folks.
Yeah,
they don't just want to take it and pay bills with it.
Right. You can find us on Facebook.com/Bluff Creek Project, and you can find the GoFundMe, the Indiegogo campaign, on Indiegogo.com. The link is also on the Facebook fan page as well. Now, David, this was one of the ones you sent me earlier in the week, and I'm going to give you the chance to geek out on this one a little bit, Mr. Pseudoscientist. So, failure in real science is good. Now, tell me why failure in real science is good, because I think I know.
This is one of those things that, like, I saw this and it was just like it hit so close to home, because so many people are so upset anytime somebody says something to the contrary of their beliefs about Sasquatch and this, that, and the other. And, well, without knowing for 100% or without being able to explain it 100% to other people, take somebody else's viewpoint and look at it, because what if you're wrong? What if you can convince somebody else that they're wrong? Being wrong isn't losing. It's probably the most important part of being of the scientific process, because when you're wrong and you know you're wrong, you've learned something. Something else is right. It's not what you thought it was, but something else is right, and you've learned something. So it's probably the most beneficial thing is to know and to admit that maybe you don't know exactly what you're saying is correct, and we should look into this more, or this is how the process is supposed to work. And so many walls built up in this community, and it's starting to it gets to the point where it's maddening to me to watch people. I've got my ideas. I'm not right. I know I'm not right. There's no basis for what I'm saying. It's just an idea. But then people to tell me I'm wrong. I listen. But can you be convinced? You have to be convinced that you're wrong, and when you're convinced that you're wrong, it's one of the most eye-opening things ever. And there's been a few times in the Sasquatching thing that I've been convinced that I was wrong, and it's really truly been eye-opening. But this is talking about a huge study that posted a few weeks ago that they teamed up with some other scientists, recreated the thing, and found out that no, they don't find proof of expansion of the universe in their results. They found dust contamination. So it wasn't the universe expanding; it was dust. And but by being wrong, they went through and they took some other calculations, and they're on a better path to get the data that they want now, because they went through and somebody said, hold on just 1 minute, I don't think that's what you think it is. And they said, oh, they didn't say, screw you, asshole. They said,
like they usually do.
Yeah, they said, oh, really? How so? And I think it's this. And like, you may be right. And so then they recalibrate, and now they're going to run their tests again, and hopefully they find what they're looking for without the incorrect data. But what this article is talking about is when you're talking about this controversial or conspiracy theory articles or movements or whatever, they reference the anti-vaxxers and all those other movements that are going on. They can't be wrong. They don't want to be wrong. Scientists want to be wrong because that leads them to an answer. Movements and pseudoscience, what I do, right? Doesn't want to be wrong because what? Because it'll shatter your entire the creation that you've made. Well, science
shatters your belief, and that's the problem.
And so science isn't a belief structure. It's a process. And the most exciting thing is we keep sharing all this Neanderthal stuff because it's changing what we thought about Neanderthals, and that's exciting. And it also pushes it a little bit further away from people who think that the Sasquatch is a relic Neanderthal thing, so it's applicable, so we'll bring it up. But it's interesting because the more information you find, the more we find out that we were wrong, and the more exciting that becomes. So don't just, if somebody poo-poos on you, just stand back and listen for a second and be objective, and maybe there's something to learn. And I do it every day because I'm wrong a lot.
Yeah, well, because we take a lot of steps out there too that people don't usually take, and we put ourselves out and give our opinions on things. And sometimes we're wrong on things, but most of the times we nail it pretty much on the head. I mean, we're not trying to toot anybody's horn, but we take a logical step at the way things are going and take a look at it and give an opinion upon it. That's what we do here on the lounge. We keep things in the real, as they say. What's the famous old Edison quote? It took him 2,000 tries to fail at finding the incandescent light bulb filament. And he's like, yeah, well, I didn't fail 1,999 times. I just didn't succeed until the 2,000th try. You got to keep going at it. Well, the last article I wanted to look at was this crazy mabobber. Holy IFL science. Oh, they're probably rethinking that whole naming convention by now. Early East Asians mixed with Neanderthals not once, but possibly twice, huh? How'd that work out?
This is a really complex thing that I want to look further into. Not something that in a blog article. I do love the I fucking love science. Everything they post is great, but you do have to look a little bit further because they only use so many words, and they are doing it for the general public, right? Writing it about an 11th grade level, if you know what I'm saying. So. The interesting thing about this is that it backs up some other gaps in the knowledge in DNA, and could could potentially be the answer that we've been looking for of why DNA doesn't seem to flow, and the transition of Denisovian and Neanderthal DNA doesn't seem to be exactly like we think it is. But yeah, so what they're saying is that early East Asians, so we're talking about, all the way to the East China, East Siberia. These folks have two mixings, if you will. One probably on their way out of Africa in that Turkey area. I did the globe thing. We're talking about the Almas, and then as they transitioned again, probably above or below the Himalayas, or depending on how they go, probably had a second mixing. And so as the waves flow over, these people got a double dose of Neanderthal DNA, if you will. So 20% more of 4% is not a significant amount. If like 20% of 4% is, so it's a little bit more, but it does show some distinct variations, and it's really exciting. It's one of those things we never would have thought that. We weren't wrong, but we never would have thought that before, and we're learning, and that's great. And you just have to keep your mind open and think about what that means and what that shows as far as migration. And there's going to be some phenomenal stuff coming in the future on that, I'm sure.
I think it's really cool as well that she shows that the species of interbreeding capable hominids on this planet existed alongside each other, growing, not declining. The number of known species to be able to mix in with Homo sapiens sapien and create something new is definitely there, and they were all able to mix with each other. So, like you said, that's more the brother-sister DNA missing links that we've been looking for than it is the cousin DNA missing links like El Chimpanzee. Well, it is time again this week to check in with our old pal Wes. And now it's time for Rules to Squatch By with your old pal Wes.
Number 64. Remember, there is no such thing as a stupid question when it comes to Bigfooting. However, when it comes to Bigfooting, there are a whole lot of stupid people with a whole lot of stupid answers. So just do what your old pal Wes does. Head on down to the Squatchers Lounge, post your question in there. Someone is bound to have the information that you're looking for. But whatever you do, don't feed the trolls. Come check out my recent work and my art for sale at weslosner.com. Stay squatchy, my friends.
That's right. Our old pal Wes wants to warn you, don't feed the trolls. Good Lord. It's been quiet in the lounge the last couple of nights, and I talked to Christopher York. I was like, dude, I didn't get to see what was on the podcast, your podcast last week, so of course he sent us a reminder of what we missed.
This is what you've missed this week on the Freudian Slip.
Oh my god, we're gonna die! We're gonna be trapped in our houses. It's crazy. There's gonna be an avalanche on flat land.
Check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/The Freudian Slip or thefreudianslip.blogspot.com.
God, I love that Eastern European block music in the background of this promos, man. It's always so cheerful and fun. Dude, I see what's wrong with my lower third now, so we'll fix all that. What's funny is those guys do a tremendous job over there, and I wish I had more time to watch it. I really, really do. Or at least listen to it. I got to make more time for those guys. I really do.
It puts out a lot of content, so it's hard to keep up for me sometimes. But I was actually on the show a couple nights ago, and that was a fun one. We were talking about Man Before Man, so you better go check that out at least.
The Man Before, yeah, you were talking about Man After Man or Life After Man the last time. Now you're talking about Man Before Man. That's kind of good stuff.
Yeah, it was. It's what we would do anyway.
And now for tonight's topic.
That's right. We're on to it. We're talking about FLIR technology. What the hell is it? What the hell does it do? What the hell good is it for? Now, David, can you give us a brief explanation of what FLIR actually is?
So FLIR, the technology wasn't built for like the let's say the militarized aspect of it, it was actually built to look into walls and to find plumbing or electrical hot spots or other things like that. So it was meant to look for heat, and it wasn't until the military realized that you could weaponize that and put it into scoping that you're like, wow, we could really do something with this. And so that. Of course, that's where the FLIR that we all want and know, like the scouts and the monocles and whatnot, that's where that sort of technology was born. So what it's actually doing is it's reading infrared light, this very low-level infrared light that is emitted off of from the energy of heat. So a living being has, like emits heat. Trees, if they're in the sun, emit heat. But you can see these, especially in the dark, when things cool down at night and the air gets cool, you can see the differences quite clearly. So this is what it's a great tool for seeing in the dark, not necessarily seeing everything in the dark like night vision, like lighting up your own image of things, but seeing living things in the dark and moving.
Forward-looking infrared camera. That's basically what a FLIR technology is. Well, let's take a look at a little something that I see a lot of FLIR pictures posted as. And say you and your buddies are out with your FLIR, and this is what you get a view of. You get a view of a hot spot sticking its head out from behind a tree. And a lot of people would say, hey, what the heck is that? Well, if you don't go up there and actually try and make it move, you'll never actually realize that what you're looking at thinking is the Sasquatch peeking out from behind a tree, but instead it's Mr. Buffalo and his butt.
You just got buffalo butted.
You got buffalo butted. Now, this is basically what the FLIR is looking at. It's able to peer through the darkness for whatever's hotter than its surrounding area, and that's what it's going to focus upon. Whatever's closest and hottest is basically going to be its focal point.
Which this is a great example because you can see both the long and short hair actually still has like a pretty viable heat signature coming through it. Like you can see into the hair up there. Actually, for some reason, it's not allowing me to see that, Jeff. It will. Everybody else can probably see it, but I can't. But luckily, we looked at all these before showtime. So, but you can actually see inside the hair to the heat signature. I mean, it's huge. Like that's what you would be looking for in a living creature.
Right. I mean, if this was a Sasquatch, hanging out in a field somewhere, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about what Sasquatch are. I mean, there's enough detail in this particular type of a FLIR image to tell me that that's a male. It's an intact male. It's either a buffalo or a beefalo that's shed its winter coat. You can you can literally see the skin versus what little bit of patches of hair are running off the back sides of it. But this is a good example of a FLIR image.
Yeah, well, but the reason that is so good is because that's at full resolution and it's at close range.
Right, not a blip in the woods from 100 yards away.
Very close range. That's important because one of the things that we should talk about with thermal is range. That's you're seeing heat, and the more definition that you can only get definition through contrast, and as any image moves farther away from you, if you don't have a zoom, which they have zooms for these units, but they're not super telephoto, let's put it that way. So they have zooms, but you can't get that contrast in the image the farther away it gets, and the heat is going to bleed in over itself and make it look kind of like just a glowing orb versus a buffalo.
I mean, this person was probably standing 20 yards from this animal, if that. I mean, this is definitely way up close to put it into that much of a frame. Now, this is another thermal image of a deer. And you can see again that it's not that far away. It's probably, maybe 30 yards. It's a little bit less detailed. But as you go further away from the object, the less detail is going to be included in the image itself. The less data there is, the less pixels there are, the less we can find any usable information in these types of images. So you have to remember, you have to get closer.
So let's think about this. Like, if you're really interested, I mean, if you're gonna put the $2,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 into this unit, what you have to know is that it's going to be good for spotting something. There's something on the hill.
There's something on the hill. Well,
Yeah.
you know, there's a reason that television shows don't film in thermal. Because they don't have the detail that night vision has.
Well, exactly. Well, there's that, but also, you know, at distance you're going to see that there's something there, but you're going to have to close distance. If you're going to capture a thermal image of a Sasquatch, you're going to have to be. It's going to feel like toe to toe with that, with a thermal imager blinding your night vision up to one eye, just hoping to God it doesn't charge you.
Now, I pulled these images out of Google search, so I'm not really sure what context these are, but this is a typical submitted Bigfoot picture of on a FLIR camera. It's a blob behind a bush. To me, this is a blob behind a bush. Did you go up to the bush? Were there tracks behind the bush? Was there hair left on the bush? Where is the secondary investigations to go along with these blobs on the hill? That's where most things are lacking. There was a blob on the hill. Wonderful. What happened after that?
Obviously, that's a Sasquatch. No, so here's the thing. If it's not obviously a Sasquatch, then why, and you have no corroborating evidence, then why did you post it? Because you were convinced it was a Sasquatch, which is fine. I understand that. But you got to give us something more.
Right. So we go into then an image like this. Now this is the Bart Catino thermal image from the Sierra sites that both you have been to, I've been to extensively. We've researched itself. We know exactly where those are. David took a big old crap back there on a log, so he knows exactly what that place looks like where those things are standing back there. And no, we would not have been impressed with this video when it was released from this camera whatsoever if it wasn't for the secondary investigation that came later. Now, is that a fair statement?
That is true, and yeah, with the image, like I'm honestly, I was surprised that they went back and they did such a diligent job of recreating all of that, and
they spent a week up there doing that.
It was the challenge was kind of put forth to them by, you know, some other folks and by themselves to see if they could do the recreation, and that's, you know, that's the great process. But still, you know, it was a great process to watch, and they documented everything. But when all was said and done, it didn't really solve anything, because the thermal image is going to be it's going to be lacking, and especially at that distance, because that was what did they say? That was
probably 100 yards. I mean, that was a good distance, 300 feet.
Like 60 to 90 yards, I think, is probably a fair assessment there.
Yeah, that was. I know where they were on the top road looking down, and that's a considerable distance. That's 250 feet. You know, right in that good range.
With the 1x, you know, lens.
They got the 2x zoom, but they also had a defect in it too. So the clarity of the thermal had its the unit had its issues of its own. But this is what like military grade thermal looks like. I mean, you can even see detail in the trees that are, you know, 200 yards away with the focal point of humans in the foreground. But this is also talking about something that has megapixels of data in it, not 267 by 137 pixels on a screen, because that's literally what the smaller FLIRs actually take. You know, the screen resolutions on them are that small. You know, where something like this is probably 1200 by 720. Well, that's not widescreen. It's probably 800 by 600. But either way, it's still huge compared to what the resolutions on the small units are, like the ones that they have in their hands. They don't record a whole lot of data because the sensors that are on them are so expensive. They don't receive that much data on these Gen 1 types of forward-looking infrared cameras. Is that to my understanding?
That sounds correct. Yeah.
You know, here's a comparison between a human person in a FLIR picture as compared to the Browns in Washington thermal picture taken on their footage that actually had the same kind of defect that the other scout had, made it blurry as well. Or we could have had a little more detail on that animal down in there as well. But I mean, you can see the difference in non-working functioning FLIR versus a working functioning FLIR, even in the detail at that distance. But we're still talking, what is that there? That's 30 yards from where they were. At the gazebo out there to the ridge line, that's 30 yards.
30 yards minus, I'd say, yeah, 25, 30 yards.
We've actually been out to the site and done our own calculations on that, and it really makes it interesting. But what thermal's good for is identifying targets. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. If you've got your thermal set up and it's just recording and something with a heat signature runs across the field, it's going to pick it up. It's going to see that it was there, but it might not be able to give you enough determination as to what that animal actually looked like.
Exactly. So, yeah, hunting for proof via FLIR isn't going to do a whole lot. It is nice to have in your back pocket, if you're getting that the boogeyman vibe or whatnot, because you can see in the dark and you can see things creeping up on you. You could see that cougar coming up over the ridgeline down into camp. You could see that bear coming up the stream. Those are really great reasons to have it. But it's not probably going to, unless you have some of those, like one of those R2-D2 units, probably not going to seal the deal for anyone.
This picture here was taken at probably 10 yards, 30 feet or less. Not even, probably 10 feet in camp. I don't know where they are at now. And it still doesn't have all that much detail to it. See, that's always going to be the issue with thermal versus night vision. They're fantastic for identifying targets, but not so much on the. I don't think you could convict somebody on a thermal picture. I really don't think that there's enough detail to actually convict somebody upon it, unless you get into the upper grade stuff. But what you're seeing here are pictures of people in clothes versus a man in a Bigfoot suit. So if you're out with your FLIR and you're wondering whether it's a dude in a Bigfoot suit or whether it's a Bigfoot, if it doesn't look like a big dark spot with bright eyeballs, it's probably a Bigfoot.
Yeah, that was the most telling part, is that the where the heat escaped through the mask, the eyes and nose and mouth lit up, and then you could see like hands quite clearly. Even the shoes were light, and then nothing through the fur. Jonathan was in there, and he must have been. I mean, he was sweating. We made him uncomfortable when we were taking these photographs. He was losing water pretty fast. Let's put it that way. But that's as bright as that suit got, with him probably up towards internal temperature probably towards 95 to 100 degrees inside that suit.
So if you're trying to figure out whether it's a man in a suit, whether it's a Bigfoot, thermal definitely is something you can look at. And there's our buddy Christopher York, the Freudian slip, running away from said Bigfoot in the dark. Yes, that is correct.
Yes, now, that happened.
This is an artist recreation of Barkatino's first thermal experience in the woods looking through a thermal camera. He first saw it standing upright, completely still. I mean, just as still could be. And then it laid down and kind of put his hand up as though it was waving hi to him, is the way he put it at first. And then it got up commando style and kind of slunked away on all fours, keeping as low of a profile or animal profile as it could get. And I've looked at this set of images so many times since it was created. It always looked so comical to me until I looked at it this afternoon and went, well, that just makes total perfect sense. What he's laying down there waving at you isn't actually waving at you. He's blocking the firelight from their camp from his eyes so that he could watch Bart as Bart was looking down the thermal camera at him. And then when he decided that Bart wasn't going to go away, he got up and commando crawled away. And we've heard those reports of them commando crawling away. I believe Mike Green out in North Carolina talks about Squeaky will commando crawl away on him sometimes.
Well, yeah, if you're truly hiding, and I don't know how many people have actually been in the woods and played army or whatnot. As a kid, I was always into that, paintball, and we had ghillie suits and did the whole thing, hiding from the joggers and people riding motorbikes out in the woods and whatnot. So you can see how close we could get to people without them seeing us. But you had prone is the absolute best way to hide a bipedal figure. Walking upright, that's stupid. Hiding behind a tree, that's stupid, because the tree is a three-dimensional thing. The ground makes you two-dimensional, and there's usually something you could roll underneath a log, get under the ground cover, use that tree and go down. Make yourself as small as possible, and the only way to do that is by decreasing your height. And so the commando crawling thing makes total sense to me, and I'm surprised that there aren't more reports like that, but it makes sense that there aren't, because that's when they would be almost impossible to see.
Yeah, they would be blending in with everything around them.
And then they would pop up out of nowhere, out of a different dimension, but pop up out of nowhere, and they have
Step through the magic
move.
window.
Yeah, to move, they'd have to stand up and move off, and that's when the sighting would happen, I guess. So that sort of thing makes sense to me.
Absolutely. And there's the picture of CloneFX, KLONFX.com's Bigfoot suit. You actually rent that for your movie. He'll make changes to it for you for a price. And he's got another one coming out the pike here real soon. So definitely something to think about. Okay, so what I did for everybody, since I'm such a super nice guy, is I went out and contacted all of the best thermal guys that we know that use these things in the field. And I got some great advice. If you're going to go out and spend the money on a FLIR Scout, or you're going to spend the money on one of these new Seek thermals. Here, let's talk about the Seek thermal here before we get into those. This is probably the most affordably priced thermal imaging device on the market. It's called a Seek thermal. I believe they're right around $300 now, because they've got a 2x zoom and some kind of focusable lens on them. I got them when they were brand new, and I helped them out through the Kickstarter campaign, and just took me forever to get mine. But basically, literally, you take this little camera device, and you take I got a Samsung Galaxy 4, and you literally just plug the stupid thing into the bottom of it. Be careful, because it is a camera, and it is going into your USB device. Turn your screen on. It asks if it can use your USB. And look at that, you've got a Reverend Jeff selfie. Hi!
Hi!
Literally, I'm taking color FLIR pictures right now all over the house, and I can see my window is awfully friggin' leaky. It's because I have it open. There's a blue sign going out of it. I can see where my parrot is underneath his blanket. Isn't that kind of neat? But you don't have to spend the $5,000 on the big FLIR units. The little FLIR handhelds, I haven't really heard a whole lot of great success from people actually using those, and I haven't really done a whole lot of use with my Seek, but a bunch of people have gotten them now. The Bluff Creek Project's got 2 or 3 of them floating around now, so we will definitely have some information coming out on how good they are or how bad they are in the near future.
Let's just put it this way, though. If you're using black and white and you're using it for that target identification, not target identification, but identifying a target, right? Like if there's something on the hill.
There's something on the hill.
I'm going to keep saying that. But just for that purpose, that is totally a competent piece of gear, right? Like a totally reasonable piece of kit to say, hey guys, there's something over there.
And that's when you turn your night vision.
Yeah, I was going to say, if your $5,000 FLIR isn't going to tell you exactly what that is anyway, why wouldn't you just use the $300 Seek?
Exactly my idea. And that's what we talked about with some of the guys when they actually when I was talking about purchasing one. They were like, well, it's good for 300 feet. We can't see more than 300 feet to forest anyhow. What's the point? So let's give it a try. So we're going to give it a try. I've got a nice little night vision unit we're going to talk about when we get to that next month as well. But let's get over to what the experts, or the guys, the more, whatever you want to call them, the more experienced users of them. Justin Smeha, of course, love them, hate them. Everybody's got their opinion on them. He wants to remind everybody when you're looking through them that not everything is Bigfoot. I mean, it seems like the first time anyone touches a thermal in our Bigfoot group and the others coincidentally see Bigfoot. Thermal evidence does not really matter in his opinion. It won't prove anything. Barts and greens and browns and Pauls, they're all blob squatches, just as we were talking about. And if they were closer and better, they would still be blob squatches. So, just because there's a blob in the woods doesn't mean on thermal that it's a Bigfoot. And as a matter of fact, I can tell you, we have identified far more not Bigfoot targets with thermal than we have Bigfoot targets with the thermal.
So so that's the interesting thing is that it's so nondescript generally, and there's so many bits of information that you can find, like a hot spot on the ground. We were at the Brown property. We found a hot spot on the ground. We all postulated on what it could have been. Did the Bigfoot come in and take a peek and lay down right there? You can't make those sort of leaps, but that piece of gear allows you the ability to see that hot spot on the ground that wouldn't allow your mind to go there before. So
I mean, yeah, it's like if you wake up and you think something just peed on your tent, you could take your damn thermal imager outside and figure out if something just peed on your tent or not. You still can't say it's Bigfoot peed on your tent, but you can figure out whether something peed on your tent or not. So the next one up I contacted was Derek Randalls. He says, use it as often as you can. His advice would be to pack a tripod with you always. It's really hard to keep them steady at a distance. Also, lithium batteries always. Also, 100% get to know your device before you get into the field with it, and then go practice with easy targets, dogs, cats, deer. Doing that will teach you a lot. He really doesn't think that it's an important thing that you... Wait, I really do think that the most important thing you can do is practice before you go out with it. It would suck to have the $1 million shot and then not get it because you weren't 100% comfortable with your unit. Hey, that's good advice from Derek.
no, I totally agree with that. The couple times that I've held one in my hand, I wouldn't have wanted me to be the one holding it if a Bigfoot walked on like out in front of us, right? So it definitely takes a little bit of practice and time to work with, and maybe my assessment is unfair because I'm just using it as the enthusiast, and it was a toy, not a tool when I was using it. How about that?
Yeah, and you can find Derek Randalls and his project at the OlympicProject.com. Next up was Kirk Brandenburg responded, first thing to learn is to understand what you're seeing in the field of view. Some people's brains pick it up quickly, others take much longer. I've handed the thermal to people expecting to see what I see, and their brains just can't comprehend it. So a person needs to give their brain a chance to understand the depth, the contrast of the thermal image, and the field of view, because without that understanding, whatever is seen is of little value. A friend just recently got a thermal and was all excited, convinced he just recorded a Sasquatch at the distance. When we looked into the recording, instantly he knew it was a nearby rabbit. Embarrassing to say the least. He didn't yet have the comprehension for the depth of the field of view, and thought that rabbit was a Sasquatch a long far away. That's good. There again, real insight coming from the guys who use these things like constantly. These guys have more eyeball hours on these things than I can imagine.
Yeah, and it does. Like I was the one time that I really got a long extended use. So I was actually walking through like a field area, and trying to use, because I wanted to see if it would work. Trying to use the FLIR to navigate, and it's weird. It doesn't give you that exact eyeball view, and it's kind of like running a simulation of what you're doing. It's like you're not exactly sure where you're stepping, and so it does take a lot of time to really figure out how it's going. And it's not a light optic. It's not a camera, so it doesn't give you that same dimension. All it sees is it sees the infrared light, but off of heat sources. That's what it's looking for. Exactly.
So I thought that was really cool to come from Kirk. Bart Catino responded, of course. We love Bart Catino. You can find him at the SierraSiteProject.com. Let's see here. He says, patiently watch and learn the views, the angles, the movements of indigenous animals, and even people around you from various distances and obstructions, so you can be better disciplined to be able to confidently discriminate between what you are actually seeing. That's really good advice too. It says important to do that in different temperatures and humidities as well, because the images will actually show up differently. I'd also say to be always recording. Easy to erase and clear it afterwards. If you suspect a weird bipedal shape, don't give up on it until you're absolutely certain it's an inanimate object or a known animal or person. From the personal experience viewing from both occasions seeing the Sierra footage, they will stand completely still for a long time. I'm assuming not to give away their position that would inherently believe that they could only give away by moving, if no visible light source. So basically he says, keep after it until you're sure of what it is, and I'm completely 100% on board with that. What's your thinking on that, David?
I'm absolutely. I don't think that you have to you don't have to bum rush it every single time, if you know what I'm saying. But just wait. It should move off. If it doesn't, move closer.
Throw a rock at it.
Yeah. Does it move? Does it change? What? Yeah. Poke around in it with a stick. Do something to try to change what you're seeing, basically. And if it doesn't change, you might be looking at an inanimate object, but then you need to approach it and just confirm that it's not, like, that it is in fact an inanimate object, because it shouldn't be showing a hot signature like that anyway. It's probably something interesting to look at anyway. So yeah, I do. Yeah, all good advice. You know, and my skepticism about the fact that, you know, it's going to be very, very difficult to get the quote money shot, the $1 million shot on.
You're going to have to be within that 30-yard gap
on a like on a thermal imager. Basically, you're going to have to be right up on them.
You're going to have to be under 50 yards even with the 2x.
Yeah.
Zoom on it. And the last responder was Rowdy Kelly, our buddy up there, Left Creek Project. He says, one tip, turn down the brightness as much as you can so that it doesn't blow out your eye when you take it away from it. And I know that was one of the difficulties you had with it, was a night blindness to it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get me a bunch of eye patches, and we can become Squatch pirates. And that way we can just keep the patch over the eyeball that we're using for the night vision. That way we don't have to worry about screwing it up. But yeah, when you look through those things, especially the monocular type stuff, it does juggle your night vision, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the weirdest thing is, you know, you're out there, no lights around, under the starry sky, and your eyes do adjust, and then you basically take a flashlight and cup it around your eyeball, which, you know, so you close the other one because now you can't, you know, like you're trying to have two different fields of view, so that's weird. So you're just looking through the one, and then you open it, like you take it away, and you have to close the other eye because now you have one blind eye and one good eye, and that you have no depth of field either. So it's something that I wouldn't suggest trying to navigate by. You know, a red light is probably okay. You know, just use your night vision. Save the FLIR, and at like Rowdy says, at the lowest light setting, use your FLIR when you suspect you hear something or whatnot. But just do it for moments. It's going to blow out your night vision, but the longer you hold it up there, the worse it's going to be. Yeah,
that's one of the things I get from reading some of these damn blogs. Good Lord, man, I look at some of these black on white blogs and then I'm blind for an hour. So I just had to give up on them. If y'all got a black background with white text blog, y'all are blowing out Reverend Jeff eyeballs. Stop it. Just stop it. Please, just stop it. Anyhow, yeah, dude, you know, FLIR technology is really, really cool. I like it. It's expensive. It's getting cheaper. The units are getting more. We've got some Gen 2 units in the field now. John's got a Gen 2 unit that he was able to pick up when they were out of scouts. So FLIR made him a good deal on it. And, you know, FLIR as a company is a friend to the Squatcher, as much as the Squatchers are a friend of the FLIR technology as well, because, you know, that's a whole little sect that they didn't expect to sell 150 units to.
Oh, exactly, and that's, yeah, with the amount of units they're actually expecting to sell, that's pretty good.
Yeah, because they're not expecting to sell 10,000 FLIR Scouts this year, not whatsoever. So with that, you know, that's kind of our look on the FLIR technology. I mean, it's good, it's great, it's a great object hunter. An identifier. It's an object locator. But past that, it's still going to take walking up on it or some good night vision that you're going to be able to zoom in on to actually get the detail that you're looking for it. So if you're saving up for a FLIR, you might want to save up a little bit less money and get you a really good night vision to start with, because honestly, for me, it's the better tool.
Yeah, and there's problems with night vision. We'll get into that on the other episode as well. And then there's some benefits. It is a lot less expensive, and it does do some pretty good things. But what it won't do is give you that total contrast of heat versus not heat, and show you that there is a biological thing over there. If it's camouflaged in, the night vision is not going to help you any more than in sunlight. But the thermal will tell you that there is indeed something right there.
So they both have their places, but, you know, I honestly think you'd end up getting more use out of the night vision, but we'll talk about that when we come back around to our equipment discussion next time around. David, dude, great show, man. We're at the end of this monster already. What have you got coming up this week? Anything cool?
I'm actually off for the week. I've decided I'm getting back into the music thing, since the whole squatching thing isn't really working out. I think I can do that in between this, that, and the other. But you know, had a day with where I took a little drive up into my area, and I was just thinking, like, man, if I had the boy with me right now, I would just be like hightailing it back home immediately. And which is killing me because there's no snow up on the peaks. It means everything that I want to get to is accessible right now. And here I am, just kind of tied to my house, but that's okay because I love being a dad.
That's right, and it's only going to be a couple of years before little Eli's going to be out. Dad, let's go, man! My hammock's in the car already.
He's going to come with me.
That's right. He's going to be hanging on the shirt tails as you're going out the door, going, "Bring my fishing pole."
He doesn't need a license. Pull him out, boy. Pull him out.
That's right. Not until he's 16. Well, guys, we want to thank y'all, everybody, for watching the Squatcher Science Podcast, Season 3, Episode 7, from myself, the Reverend Jeff, your host, and from my esteemed colleague, Dr. David Batdorf, Pseudoscientist. We thank you for watching. As always, may the Squatch be with you.
Oh, we forgot to plug the big-ass FLIR in space.
Oh, yeah, we sure did. The big-ass FLIR in space. Kickstarter coming soon. $1 billion.
$1 billion big-ass FLIR in space.
Dude, July camping at Laos Camp is coming soon.
Yep. So what we need is a benevolent benefactor to give me all the thermal equipment that they have for that.
Oh, there'll be so much there for that week, dude. You won't have an idea what the equipment will be there that week. Seriously, there night vision, thermal, cameras galore, you name it. It's gonna be a fantastic week.
Is there beer?
Of course.